Good evening, traders. This is the CloudChartist on Sunday night, going over this week's weekly Ichimoku analysis. Start off with CL on the weekly. We see that we have been in a downtrend underneath the Tenkan-sen, and downtrend is still intact. We did get a bounce last week, but it's an inside candle in that the price action is well, the body of the candle is inside the last candle, I should specify, but so it's possible that we could get a reversal to the upside, but we have the Tenkan-sen at 56.56 currently that will provide very strong resistance. I like to call that setup the Tenkan Smackdown. Very good setup for going short, especially on intraday, shorter time frames, 4 hour, excellent setup. In fact, we had some nice trades on that 4 hour Tenkan Smackdown last week. So anyway, as far as other observations about the chart, overall the chart is still bearish. Price action is under the cloud, under the Tenkan-sen, under the Kijun-sen. We do have a uptick in the RSI. It's still very much oversold, but it has changed direction and is pointing upwards now, reflecting this momentum to the upside from last week. That's about it for CL. Let's move on. Next we have the ES. ES has been a pretty crazy trade. I don't know if you've been trading it intraday, but it's been pretty nuts. So last week we got a bearish reversal back down after closing above Tenkan-sen resistance. We reversed at, I thought it was interesting to put the fibs because we reversed pretty much exactly at the 88.6 the way I draw fibs, which is using real candle bodies from this swing low to this swing high. Then we bounced off the 50%, which I also found pretty interesting. So overall, this ES chart is bullish over the cloud. One or a couple of factors that make it less than 100% bullish is the fact that it's in a currently in a fast time frame downtrend, and that it has lost the Tenkan-sen support. So we can also note that the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are both flat and both moving sideways. So this price action, or this chart configuration, calls for sideways price action. We could trade down as far as 1950.88 Kijun-sen, probably get a bounce there. If not, we could trade down to the cloud in the 1920s. That's semi-unlikely at this point. Chances are we will stay in this range between 1950.88 and 2025.13 until one of these parameters is broken. That's about it for ES. Moving on to NASDAQ, similar configuration to the ES. And the fibs are similar too, except interestingly, we bounced at the 61.8 here. Put in several bottoming tails below this 41.33.57 level, and bounce several times from there. So we'll see if we can hold this level this week. And to the upside, we're looking at 41.88.50 as resistance. If we do sell more, we are looking at 40.16 Kijun-sen to support, but we're still bullish overall over the cloud, and the cloud is rising. Next we have the Russell. Russell's been very choppy on the weekly, just in a range up and down. So we have a similar configuration to the other indexes that we've gone through so far, in that the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are both flat and moving sideways. Last week, price lost the Tenkan-sen support that it previously had closed above, and closed sort of in a little bit more than halfway between the Tenkan-sen and the cloud. We could come down and test the cloud at 1151.80 if we get more selling. That should provide good support. Otherwise, we would look down to the 1129.40 level, the Kijun Sen, for support. We do have the Kijun Sen coming into support at the Tenkan Sen here, which is slightly higher than the cloud, so that could provide support also. I'm sorry, the Chikou span is coming into the Tenkan Sen here. I might have misspoken there. The Chikou, this red line here, represents price action shifted 26 periods into the past. So if we're looking at the weekly chart, that's 26 weeks ago. If you counted these candles, there would be 26 candles between here and the current candle. And when the Chikou span runs into either support and resistance, that influences the current price support and resistance. Overall bullish on this chart, but we do have a cloud that is flat here and then descending. We have a cloud twist. Cloud twists can often attract price. We also have very thin and flat cloud here that could attract price action, but that's not until April, May area. So we'll see what happens then. But for now, cloud support is solid and up here. Moving on, we have the Dow, the YM futures. Bullish overall. Prices over the cloud. Cloud is rising. Same configuration of the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen, both flat and moving sideways. Last week we were unable to hold the Tenkan Sen support and sold off and got a slight bounce at the bottom as the Chikou hit this candle probably and found support. Notice the Chikou is pointing upwards, reflecting these buyers on this tail. So moving forward, we could come down and test the Kijun Sen 169.10, or we could come back and test the 175.13 Tenkan Sen level. But until we break out of one of these ranges, the price action is likely to be sideways. Moving on to silver. We saw that silver had been in a nice uptrend from after it found support at the Tenkan Sen. Tenkan Sen started rising. We were able to break over the Kijun Sen resistance, which also happened to correspond with the 38.2 of these fibs, which I drew from the swing high to the swing low real candle bodies. But then we got to the 50% of the range from here to here, and had problems getting above. So we have tweezer tops here, and then selling. This candle, buyers tried to buy it back up, but it's still closed below the Chikou span. The Chikou span is currently at 1731.8. So in order for price to get bullish again for silver, we need to get first back over 1732-ish. Otherwise, we could be drawn to the flat Tenkan Sen below at 1633, which may or may not provide support. And if we're looking for higher, if you want to be a silver bull, it's going to be tough to get over the 1844.7 level, as proven by these two tweezer tops. Overall, the chart is bearish under the cloud. Cloud is descending here. There is room for price to move up into this area, but chances of getting over 20, not very good at the moment. Next up we have gold. Gold chart a little bit different from silver, very bullish. Tagged the upside top of the cloud here perfectly, was rejected. Put in a potential reversal candle after this strong uptrend. Also the Chikou span came to the Tenkan Sen and was reversed, and was rejected, and also rejected by this candle. So on this last week's candle, we had a hammer, or a hanging man. This candle could be looked upon as either bullish or bearish. It really needs the next candle to confirm the price action. We have flat Kijun Sen and flat Tenkan Sen below. Kijun Sen is bear crossed over the Tenkan Sen, pretty far below. So what could happen next is price could, gold could get bought again and could retest the top of the cloud here. We have a cloud twist, so it's possible it could even break through. Sometimes price likes to break through at cloud twists, just like that. or we could sell and come back down and test the Kijun-sen again. We do have, the Chikou has support at the cloud right here, so that's in the like 1270 area. So Chikou could come down and find support at the cloud, which would also support price around here. We could then get some bull flag action, and between the cloud and that area as the Chikou sort of bounces around in the cloud. But if the Chikou loses the cloud, then chances are we will have selling down more towards the Kijun-sen below, in the 1225, 1230 region. Okay. Next we have the 10-year Treasury notes, ZN. On the weekly, Treasuries have been extremely bullish lately. We see this strong uptrend after we broke out from the Tenkan-sen, Kijun-sen confluence over the 50% fib from this swing high to swing low. And last week we blasted over the 61.8, which I was a little bit surprised about, given that it was prior support here. I thought it might possibly act as resistance, but indeed it did not. An interesting thing to note, so overall let me just say that this chart is fully bullish over the cloud. The price action is above the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen are both pointing up. Chikou span is pointing up crazy. Very strong uptrend. Some things to note are, I was looking at previous RSI when RSI reached overbought here, and what happened after that. I noticed that we made a new high after that, but RSI failed to make a new high, so that's a little bit of negative divergence in the RSI over here. RSI is again not quite overbought, but touching that overbought, starting to be overbought, so that might come into play as being a factor. It's interesting that we're still, far below the highs when it was overbought before. So be interesting to watch. We are quite extended over the cloud. That's a factor. We also have a cloud twist down here with a very thin cloud, so that could attract price. If we do get selling, we do have plenty of levels of support to watch in between. So keep that in mind. Next up we have the 30-year Treasury Bonds, EB. Similar to the last chart, very strong uptrend, except we're getting near prior highs here from 2013. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we do reach these levels as where price was rejected previously. See if it is, again, rejected. Otherwise, besides being overextended over the cloud and over the Tenkan-sen, we do have overbought RSI here, quite overbought. But the chart is overall quite bullish and the cloud is rising. So until proven otherwise, ZB is quite bullish here. Next up, we have the dollar. We all know that the dollar has been in an incredible uptrend, holding the Tenkan-sen all the way. If you were swing trading this, you would have had no reason to get out of this trade at any point since July, really. It's been in a strong uptrend, holding the Tenkan-sen. Except for right now. Last week put in a potential hangman reversal type candle. Also, the Chikou is pointing down at the moment, reflecting that negative momentum. So we're also extremely extended over the flat cloud below, extremely extended over the Tenkan-sen. But, extremely extended doesn't mean we can't go higher. We've been extremely overbought for quite a while on the RSI, and it doesn't seem to mean anything. I wouldn't be surprised to see some flagging action here, some sideways price action over the Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen. But we'll see. . Next up, we have the Nikkei. The Nikkei has been my favorite risk indicator as of late. It's a really good thing to watch if you're monitoring overall risk on, risk off. It's been leading a bit lately, which has been extremely handy. So as far as the weekly chart goes, you see that we put in a spike high here and closed above the Tenkan Sen. This is a potential reversal candle. We'll need confirmation with a lower high and a lower low. Otherwise, chart is bullish in a fast time frame uptrend. Over the Tenkan Sen, the Tenkan Sen is flat, the Kijun Sen is flat like the other indexes that we've been looking at, so that suggests sideways price action. We're pretty extended over the cloud here, but the cloud is rising. Chikou is bullish and has room to run. So we just really need to see for next week if we can whether we make a higher high and a higher low or not, and whether we lose the Tenkan Sen here. If we do lose the Tenkan Sen, we can look to 16295 to support price action, but that's pretty far away. If we do lose that support, then we're looking at the cloud below. Moving on, we have corn. Corn has been interesting in that we had this nice uptrend. We filled this gap and then we're unable to go higher. So we've been sort of ambling down ever since. Last week we, and I'm this far zoomed out because I wanted to show you where I drew my fibs from. Last week we, after putting in this doji under the Tenkan Sen, we sold and tested the Kijun Sen. So we're looking to see if the Kijun Sen will hold support at 367.63, and if it does, look to 391.38, the Tenkan Sen, to provide resistance. As we move under the cloud, we have the cloud descending, which will also provide resistance. One bullish note is the Chikou is above the candles at this point, so if we do get a reversal upwards, the Chikou can turn around and run all the way up to this area, around the 420 area, before it finds resistance at the Tenkan Sen. But so far, the chart is still in completely bearish under the cloud, but with a little bit of progress, a little bit of support being found in this area. So we'll see. It's very critical to determine whether or not we can hold the Kijun Sen, 367.63. And moving on, we have the euro. Euro has been selling quite a lot. Last week we put in a potential reversal candle. The Tenkan Sen and Kijun Sen have started to flatten out. The RSI has been extremely oversold and is starting to point up also, suggesting that we might get a bounce just based on oversold, if nothing more. We're extremely extended below the cloud. The cloud represents equilibrium, so I think of price as elastic. As it gets stretched further and away from the cloud, the chances are greater for it to want to return to equilibrium towards the cloud. So really we just want to see if the next candle can put in a higher high and a higher low. Otherwise we could just be bear flagging for lower price action on the euro. Moving on to some equity charts. I thought the Apple chart was interesting. We had earnings last week, propelled Apple to a new high at 120. But then we did have some sellers coming in, just taking it down a few dollars. Overall, the chart is quite bullish, and over the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen, I'm looking for 112.32 to hold. We could flag over that for a while. This cloud is moving upwards, providing higher and higher support. It does taper off here in the summertime, so that's something to take note of. If, we could trade higher and then come back down and bounce around on top of the flattening cloud during the summer. So next up we have Netflix. Netflix had an insane earnings and ripped up to, astounding heights. Was bearish under the cloud and busted right through the cloud and closed above the cloud. Then last week we put in a potential reversal doji. So overall the chart is bullish, but we need to make sure that price can sustain this 441.80 level. If not, we could see a reversal back down to the cloud, which is around 420 at this point. We also have the Chikou span coming into resistance at the Tenkan-sen to make note of. We will need the Chikou span to get over the Tenkan-sen in order for price action to go higher on Netflix. Next up we have Lulu. I think Lulu's been in a real strong uptrend with this gap up here. I think it looks like it's time for Lulu to chill out, and after putting in tweezer tops here, potential reversal candle, doji. The Chikou is going flat, suggesting sideways price action. We have flat cloud underneath, which then descends and then pretty much falls off a cliff. We have very overbought RSI on Lulu at this point. Pretty extended over the cloud and extended over the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, which are still trapped inside the cloud as they weren't able to keep up with the momentum of price after this big gap. So I expect flagging, maybe finding support at the gap. Gaps in Ichimoku are called windows, by the way. They can offer support or resistance. If we do not bounce off the gap, we could expect a test of a gap fill, a window fill, I suppose. Price could come down and test the cloud as well. And I think I have one more. The transports were doing quite well and then got quite bullish quite bearish last week. NSC put an interesting candle in. I thought was a good Ichimoku lesson to look at. I also have a long-term position in NSC, so I keep an eye on it. So we saw that NSC, after selling, came down and put in a nice hammer candle off the cloud. Came in, put a spinning top doji, and then on last week's candle was unable to get close above the Tenkan-sen and got the classic Tenkan smackdown. So a Tenkan smackdown is basically when price is in a downtrend, catches a bounce, and then is unable to get back over the Tenkan-sen at 106.01 in this case. So price then sold down and found support just above. It actually bounced at the cloud exactly and then closed just above the cloud. So it will be interesting to see what NSC and the other transports do next week. I can imagine bouncing in a range here between the cloud and the Tenkan-sen above. I think that's the last chart I have for you this week. That was quite a few charts. I hope that you were able to understand and learn a little bit more about Ichimoku. If you're interested in learning even more and in fact mastering the technique, I do have a chat room where I go over this kind of analysis all day, every weekday from 8 to 4, sometimes much later than 4. If you're interested in joining my chat, I have posted a link for a $20 weekly trial membership, so you can come in, pay $20 and check it out for the week and decide if it's something that you might be interested in spending more time with. And that's about it. Good luck trading this week, and thanks for watching.